Hey guys, welcome to Knockers Down the Bottom. I'm your host, Jay Mill. Jay Miller, if you like. Let's get into it. So today we're going to take a look at the Cleveland Browns defense versus the Cowboys offense. Of course, I'll start with the elephant in the room. The guy I'm most worried about is Myles Garrett. He's matching up with our defensive line. And the reason why I say our defensive line is because the Cleveland Browns, while they mostly play him the majority of his snaps at right end, which is going to be on the left side of the offense, right side of the defense. So he'll be matched up against Tyler Smith for the most part. He'll still see some snaps against Terrence Steele. He'll still see some snaps against Cooper Beebe because they'll line him up over the center. They'll line him up over the right guard, over the left guard. They'll just try to see what kind of matchup he can get, similar to the way we deploy Micah Parsons. And, once they hunt his matchup, then from there, they kind of try to work on breaking that man down. So you'll see him all over the place. But, of course, he's the one I worry about most. I also worry about Zadarius Smith. He's also a very good defensive end, a really good pass rusher. So no matter what, even if Myles Garrett is going against Terrence Steele, it doesn't necessarily mean Tyler Guyton has the day off because he has to go against Zadarius Smith, who has had multiple 10-sack seasons in the NFL. So he's nothing to fool with as far as a pass rusher in his own right. But then they have some other guys on that defensive line too. Dalvin Tomlinson, Shelby Harris. Those are big, physical, strong guys. So Cooper Beebe's going to have his hands full. Zach Martin, Tyler Smith. So I feel like this matchup will go the longest way in determining whether or not the Cowboys can have success on offense. If our offensive line can hold up against their front four, then I think we'll have a little bit more success in this game. But if those guys are breaking our offensive linemen down, then it's going to be a long day for the Dallas Cowboys. And then on the outside, you have Newsome and you have Denzel Ward, who are two very good corners. And then Emerson Jr. as well. So the Cleveland Browns, similar to if the Cowboys had DeRon Bland healthy, Trayvon Diggs healthy, and Jordan Lewis, I mean, they'd still probably have a slightly better secondary than us too, especially if we throw in Thornhill and Grant Delpit at the safety positions. So, I mean, the defense top to bottom. I mean, the linebackers, you got Owusu Koromora, you got Hicks, you got Devin Bush. Like, they're loaded at all three levels. The Cleveland Browns probably player for player, top to bottom. I mean, they're right up there with the great defenses in the NFL that you think of right now, like the 49ers, who are great at all three levels. The Baltimore Ravens have a pretty formidable defense, even though last night, we saw what kind of happened to them. They ran into a Pat Mahomes, and, that changes everything. But for the most part, the Ravens have a formidable defense. Some of the Cowboys have a formidable defense. So when you think of some of these defenses in the league that are good at all three levels, that's the Cleveland Browns. Pretty much we're going to be facing this week. So where do I see the Cowboys having a path to success? I really do think that the Cowboys are going to have to pass the ball for success to set up the run. So I think the Browns, they're going to look at it and they're going to say the Cowboys do not have any running game, so we don't think that, we have to worry about their running game at all. So that's fine. Let them think that way. Not necessarily straightforward, dropping back and throwing the ball 40 yards down the field, but more like your misdirection plays, right? Your screens, your jet sweeps, your reverses, things like that, your quick smoke routes where you hit it to the receiver right off the bat, let him go try to make a play, slants, just little things like that to kind of just get them, in the movement of things and give them some eye candy too. I would like to see us use some motion before the play in order to kind of get this thing going, because then we'll get people used to kind of moving left to right. And if we pass the ball out of those formations, we could come back, in the second and third quarter after we had some success passing the ball and getting some eye candy going as far as getting the defense to move left to right. Now we can use some of those same movements to run the ball. If you can get those linebackers and those corners flowing one way because they see Kevontae Turpin coming around, off of a jet sweep type motion, and we threw him a screen earlier in the game using that type of motion to get him out in space, and he hit the play for 7 to 10 yards. Now the defense is looking at that. We can use that same motion, but run a counter trap or Rico Dowdle to the other side while the defense is flowing the other way. Pull the guard, pull the center, pin and pull, and let's go. So I do think there's some ways to get the Cleveland Browns moving and being able to balance out your offense. But I do think the Cowboys should take the approach of passing to set up the run. And while that doesn't mean don't run at all, I'm just saying on first down, when it's 1st and 10, don't be predictable and, 80% of 1st and 10s in the game, we're running the ball. It should be something like a 50-50 split on 1st and 10, because 1st and 10 is a good down to run the ball. It's also a very good down to pass the ball. As a matter of fact, when you look at the advanced metrics, every down is a good down to pass the ball. Your success rate at passing the ball is about 3 times as high as running the ball. So it does make sense. Also, one of the paths to victory here, I feel, is using CeeDee Lamb in multiple different places. I don't think, even though I love Denzel Ward as a corner and Newsome as a nickelback and Emerson as another corner, I don't think there's a corner on the Cleveland Browns roster who can cover CeeDee Lamb all day long. As a matter of fact, if it's me, I know Emerson's a really good corner. I'd put him in the slot and let him battle him all day, because then you keep a lot of the double teams off of CeeDee Lamb and you kind of let your offense run through that. And then you have, Cooks on the outside, and you have Jalen Tolbert on the outside, and you kind of put Jalen Tolbert in like a little bit of a rotation with some of those other guys like Brooks. I don't know if necessarily Flournoy is going to be active week 1. That might be one of those guys that they kind of hold off on for a couple of weeks, but if he is, rotate him in there too. But I think more so I want to see a steady diet of CeeDee Lamb in the slot, and whenever it's not CeeDee Lamb, I want to see a steady diet of Cooks in the slot as well. I think that's another place where the Cowboys actually have a very good chance. Also, the third thing, whenever you do run right at Myles Garrett. Run right at him. It's not that he plays with poor technique. It's not that he can't play a run defense. None of that. But when I was watching the games that I watched to use, my game plan for this game, the teams had the most success when they ran right at him. Right at him. He's used to getting a chance to be the aggressor when it comes to the pass sets and being able to get into your guy and then use, he has like every tool in his tool belt when it comes to rushing, whether it's a swim move, whether it's a pull under, whether it's a straight power, whether it's a power to speed once he gets you off balance. But he has all the tools in his tool belt as a pass rusher. But as a run defender, I do see some times when an offensive linemen are able to come off and fire off and get into him. And if you're getting 2 guys into him or a combo block, it can kind of, open up some things for that side of the ball. So I would say the third key to success with Myles Garrett and with this game overall is, if you're going to run it right at them. I think this game is going to come down to the matchup of the Cowboys offense versus the Browns defense. I know we did it the other way. That's why I did it the other way first, because I felt like that matchup is going to be a little bit more in favor of the Cowboys. I do feel like this matchup is usually in favor of the defense. The defense is usually ahead of the offense this early in the season, and then you take into account that CeeDee Lamb is just getting back in, even though he's done a lot with Dak Prescott over the time. You never know, what kind of rust there might be there. But I actually think CeeDee Lamb is going to have a very good game. All right, so now let's get down to some predictions. Before I get to who's going to win the game, let's get down to some of the things I think are going to happen in this game. All right, so prediction number 1. The Cowboys will force at least 3 turnovers this game. I think Deshaun Watson is ripe for turning over the ball. I know last year he started off 5-1 at home and actually didn't have any turnovers, or actually didn't have any interceptions, at home at all. But I think with the way that he's going to hold on to the ball, and like I talked about, I don't think he's very pocket aware. I think the Cowboys will have a chance at some sack, strip, fumble situations. Maybe they can get the ball into their hands and run it in and score. That would really help the offense because I do think points are going to be hard to come by this game, but I think they're going to be hard to come by for both teams. But I do predict that the Cowboys will force 3 turnovers. They definitely will pick off a ball if Deshaun Watson is not accurate. This is that type of secondary. They will take that ball away from you. But I do think the defensive line is also going to have a hand in taking that ball away, or maybe one of the linebackers on one of those mug the A-gap blitzes or those blitz disguises, those zone blitzes where you don't really know where it's coming from. I think Deshaun Watson's going to get caught with that a couple of times, and it's either going to lead to an interception, but it's definitely going to lead to some fumbles. So, bold prediction. Well, not bold prediction. Prediction number 2. I'll do a bold prediction at the end. Maybe I'll make, a bonus prediction after this, a bold prediction. So, prediction number 2, I do think CeeDee Lamb will go over 75 yards in this game and have a touchdown. I do think they will limit his reps, but I think when he's out there, he's going to be super effective. I see his stat line being something like, 6 catches for 92 yards and a touchdown, which is going to be a great day. If you're looking at daily fantasy, I definitely would start him, whatever other receivers that you have. I think he's going to be a good play this week. And I do think he's going to be effective when he's out there. I just don't expect him to be out there for 70 snaps. Prediction number 3. The Cowboys will average more than 4 yards a carry this game. Yeah, I said it. More than 4 yards a carry this game. Everybody's been out there and crapping on the running backs. Rightfully so. Ezekiel Elliott's in that room. Dalvin Cook is somewhere on this roster. What are we doing? What in the 2019 are we doing? If this was like 2019, we'd have a great backfield, but it's not 2019. So I do understand why people are crapping on the running game. But I do believe Rico Dowdle will get the bulk of those carries when it comes down to it. I also do think Deuce Vaughn, if he's active, will show a nice change of pace. I do think Hunter Lipke has shown some improvement as a fullback. I also do think the Cowboys do have some nice things as far as Cooper Beebe being strong in the middle, plus Zach Martin being strong in the middle, plus Tyler Smith being strong in the middle. I think the Cowboys will be able to open up some holes for the running game. And even if the running backs aren't awesome, I feel like they can get at least what's blocked. So if it's blocked for 4 yards, I think Zeke's going to be able to get 4 yards. If it's blocked for 4 yards, I think a back like Rico Dowdle or Deuce Vaughn will be able to get you 6 or 7. So I do think the Cowboys come out of this game over 4 yards a carry. Let's say something, or at least at, let's say the over-under, at least at 4 yards. So hey, if they run it 25 times, they'll get 100 yards. So I think the Cowboys will average 4 yards a carry. Now, bold prediction. The Cowboys quarterback, Dak Prescott, against this former playoff team, over 500 team, really good defense. These are the type of situations where, oh crap, time to shit the bed. He will have a really, really, really good game. I think he'll pass for close to 300 yards, say over under 275. I think he'll have multiple touchdown passes. So I think that's something that'll, help the Cowboys kind of stay balanced there, because once he starts getting those multiple touchdown passes going, I think the defense is going to have to back off even more. And then all of a sudden those boxes are even lighter, and those big physical linemen coming off, now you're going to get even more rushing yards. So I think Dak Prescott's going to have a really great game against a team that's actually going to end up being a really good team. And, maybe he won't do that all the time this season, but I know a lot of people are picking the Browns. The Browns are actually a favorite by 1.5 points this game. That means if it was in Dallas, Dallas would be favored by 1.5 points. If it was on a neutral field, the Cowboys would be favored by 3 points. So I think the world is ready for the Dallas Cowboys to shit the bed. That's what they want to see. You know, if you're looking at the Cowboys, you're either looking at them because you love them, but you're definitely looking at them if you hate them. You know, they're one of those polarizing teams that people love to hate watch. So I'd like to, start the season off right and get some people out here, looking at Dak Prescott going against a good team and actually having a good game. That'll probably, soil a lot of diapers this week. But that takes me to my last part, which is score, game prediction. Who do I think will win? I have the Dallas Cowboys winning this game. I do think it'll be a relatively close game most of the way through. I actually think the Cowboys will end up pulling away towards the end. I have them winning something like 24-16. So, that gives the Cleveland Browns a touchdown, 3 field goals. That gives the Cowboys, 3 touchdowns and a field goal. I do think points will be hard to come by. Maybe one of those touchdowns will be, a defensive touchdown. But I actually think, the Cowboys are going to be able to pull this out. I do see the game being very close through about 3.5 quarters. So 24-16. It could be something like, 10-7 at the half, Dallas. And then it could be something like 13-13 at the end of the third quarter, and then in the fourth quarter, it kind of picks its way up there, and then, we kind of get it popping, and Cowboys pull away. Browns can't really do too much because Deshaun Watson all of a sudden has to start trying to make plays, and then things start to snowball and fall apart. There is not a scenario where I see the Cowboys blowing out the Browns, unless Deshaun Watson just goes amazingly crazy with the turnovers, which it's small. I put that at a very small chance, right? I think he's going to have some turnovers, but I think their defense is good enough to, even though if he has those turnovers, they can limit our offense and force punts from those turnovers or force us to kick field goals, not necessarily go for touchdowns all the time. Now, one of the key matchups in this game, as far as the Cowboys being able to maybe score more than 24 points, is going to be what happens when they get into the red zone. Because the Cleveland Browns, for as great as their defense was between the 20s, actually when opponents got into the red zone, they scored at a pretty efficient rate. So the Cowboys also had some very serious red zone problems last year and didn't really score at a very efficient rate in the red zone. So it's going to be weakness against weakness at a certain point, and we get to see kind of how those things go. To new year, new team, things can change. But thank you guys for tuning in. That's all I got for you today. If you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe so you know when I'm coming on. You can hit me up in the comments and ask me questions. I'll also accept questions via Twitter. You can follow me there. It's at JMillerIYL. That's JMiller if you like. You can submit some questions there. You can also submit them via email, knockersonthebottom@outlook.com. Again, that's knockersonthebottom@outlook.com. I'll take them there. I'll take them Twitter. I'll take them in the comments, put them together, sort of like a mailbag format, make it a regular segment, But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Love you guys. Until next time, this has been Knockers on the Bottom. I'm your host, J Mill. J Miller if you like. Peace.